All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone. It's me again, Geisha, back for another video. So thank you for tuning in. Let me know if you can hear me. Can I get a thumbs up or some kind of alert? I'm getting some work done on my house, so I have to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. Everything good? Well, in that case, we will get started. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. I hope that you guys are enjoying your December so far. 2020 is drawing to a close, and I'm very excited to wrap up 2020. It's been quite the year. But today I'm coming to you with a new topic because we are in the middle of our race and identity series. So today we will be talking about Black stereotypes in Japan and what I have noticed about what Japanese people think about us when we first meet them and when they first meet us. So if you're interested, please remember to hit like so we can get those likes up. And I am taking requests for race and identity related videos. So if you're interested in seeing more videos like this, then please comment. So, all right. So first of all, I want to give you guys a little bit of background for those of you who don't know who I am, or maybe this is your first time coming to this channel. My name is Dedra. I lived in Japan from 2018 to 2019, so just 1 year. And I met a lot of people. I do speak Japanese, so it makes it a little easier to communicate. But there were tons of different kinds of comments that I received about what people thought about me after the fact. All right. So the first kind of comment that I get from Japanese people when they first meet me is that they think I am from Africa. And I'm sure a lot of Black people can relate to this. There's a stereotype that, you know, if you're Black, then you must be African, which is obviously not true. There's a whole diaspora. So, you know, we're all over the globe. But a lot of Japanese people do assume that we're either African, and if not, then we're from America. It's kind of rare for them to think that you're from any other country. Actually, in one of my vlogs where I was in Eon Mall, there was someone who I overheard them speaking Japanese, and they're like, "Oh, Afrika jinda." They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's an African," and it's just like, yes, I'm an African, but I'm American. I'm an African American. So that's one major stereotype that I think you guys might encounter, that people think that you're from Africa. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. Continuing on, the second stereotype that I find is quite common is that we are athletic. Is that, you know, athleticism. And this is primarily because of the promotion that we get from America, being in sports like basketball, soccer, football. We're seen to be very, very physically advanced compared to other races of people. They assume that we run fast, jump high, and that we have like inhuman levels of endurance. So that's one of the stereotypes as well. Back when I was as an English teacher back in Gunma, I was playing tag with some kids, and they were first graders, mind you, so they're very small. And I'm always it. So we were playing tag, and you know, I tagged them all in like record time. And I remember one little girl said, "It's because she's Black. That's why she's so fast." And I'm like, "No, young one, it is because my legs are as tall as you are." Okay. But that's also a common stereotype, that Black people are very athletic. Mind you, stereotypes, so this isn't all true, but if you do prove these stereotypes, then they kind of feel like, I knew it kind of feeling. Let's continue on. Number 3 is that they assume that we are all musically gifted. And this is also due to the promotion that we get in America. They assume that on the inside, we are all Michael Jacksons, Aretha Franklins, and Beyoncés. When in the reality, we're all just people, and some of us are good at singing and some of us are not. But it is that kind of, what is it? It's like this thing that is just said constantly about who we are. Yeah, they really do think that we are Beyoncés, and I'm just like, I mean, I enjoy singing as well. I think singing is fun, but it's a lot of pressure to stand up to that stereotype. So that's another thing that is said about Black people is that we are good singers. So the first is that we're from Africa or from America. The second is that we are all athletic and just freaking lifting £100 weights or maybe 200-pound weights with one hand. And then the third is that we are all musically talented. And I will add to the musically talented portion that they assume that we are all, yes, like you mentioned, good dancers, that as far as like the arts are concerned, that we tend to be very exceptional, as well as having like this rhythmic kind of essence about us. I've also heard that be said that we seem to be very very rhythmic, that we always keep like good pace, and that we have like we can match tones and have like a lot of range, is what is said about us. So something else. Let's continue on to number 4. And number 4 is that we are all physically larger and physically more defined than other kinds of people. And this can be taken many ways. But to put it simply, they assume that all of our men are really tall and muscular, like just really, really built. And they assume that all of the women are like super curvy, like Megan the Stallion kind of, like just really just bone cube bone is what they call it. Bone cube bone is basically like that hourglass frame. They assume that we're all like that. Actually, funny story. When I was back in Gunma as well, where I taught, I went with 2 other Black teachers who are my friends. We went to an onsen, and an onsen is a hot spring. So the 3 of us went to an onsen. As you guys know, it is not a it's not a swimming pool. Like everyone is like naked, like butt naked in there, and it's cool. Like it's not. No one's nervous. It's not something to be ashamed of. So we're just all in there. We bathed, and then we're sitting in the bath together. And, we're walking and hopping around different baths together. And there's so many eyes on us. Just everywhere we go, they're just watching us. And it was really awkward. Sorry, excuse that sound. It was really awkward, but after a while, one lady came up and she's like, wow, you guys are so brave to be in here. And, we struck up a very delightful conversation. And one of the things she stated is not to mind all of the people looking at us because they're admiring us because we are very curvy. And, it's something they don't see very often, if at all. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Nice to know that it's received well. But that is another stereotype, is that all of the men are like really built and muscular and just like large. And then all of the women are like just really just freaking hourglasses galore. So that's another stereotype as well. All right. Number 5 is that they assume that Black people are all really lively and energetic and outgoing. And I think this is also due to that kind of like entertainer kind of promotion that we get. We're seen as being like hosts and things like that. Like we're very, very outgoing, and we're people. So I think maybe if you end up being a shy Black person, you would shock a lot of people because they would assume that you're very, I don't want to say friendly, but they assume that you're just really out there. And yes, they think that we're very passionate about a lot of things as well. So that's another thing that I've found that they think about us. Okay, let's go to number 6. And this one's a little controversial. We're seen, as far as dating is concerned, we're seen to be very flirtatious and even borderline promiscuous. This is what I have heard from others. Personally, I think that the ability to speak Japanese, you can kind of like clear the air and make your own personality be known and, show who you really are. But I think if that language barrier is a problem, your partner or whoever you're dating might have that impression that you are like really flirty, or that you like, passing bases. I'll just leave it there. that we're smooth, like exactly that we enjoy the chase, and that we are like really, really we're really into like romance and like passion, and that we're like very into all of that. They think some of them think that, mind you, this is like hearsay. Especially, I got this information actually from one other YouTuber. Her name is Comic95, and I really love her videos. But she mentioned that like to be careful if like someone is trying to like um, how can I say, trying to make you out to be that kind of person because it's a stereotype. Yes, hypersexuality, exactly. They think that we are hypersexual. I mean, it's a stereotype, right? Not everyone is like that. The vast majority aren't. I'd like to think we're just normal people with regular sex drives like everyone else. But that is a stereotype that, you know, we are like very hypersexual and that like we're really into like physical passion. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either, believe me. But mind you, this isn't, you know, 100% people are going to assume this about you. That's not it at all. Um, but it is something that I have heard. It's been experienced by several different women in Japan. And I didn't quite make this disclaimer at the beginning, but this is assumptions about Japanese in Japan, if you're a Black person in Japan, because Japanese people in America really do know better. They're not going to assume that you're and really any of these things, because they have the opportunity to be around lots of different Black people, have lots of different data, and they know that we're not all one kind of way. But when you go to Japan, where we are like a micro minority, like we are just we are like a grain of sand on a beach in Japan. So when they meet you, they just all they have is what they think you'll be. So that's also another disclaimer. All right. And continuing on, number 7 is the last one. Number 7 is ignorance or indifference about Japan. And this is for Black people, but also spreads to, you know, all foreigners as well. They assume, because Japan is such a niche kind of interest, they assume that foreigners, particularly Black foreigners, really don't care about Japan or they don't know anything about Japan. So they tend to be like really easily impressed. Which is something I mentioned in the other video as well. But let's review, shall we? So number 1 is that they assume that we're either from Africa or maybe from America. 2 is that they assume that we're all athletic and that we're just rippling with muscles. 3 is that we're all musically talented and we can, you know, sing freaking every note in the book. 4 is that they assume that we are curvy / really, really muscular and that we're just like freaking bone cube bone all over the place. 5 is that they assume that we are expressive and lively and outgoing and just very, very we're like caricatures in a way. They assume that we're very out there. 6, they assume that we're very, very flirty, hypersexual and promiscuous in some cases. I think that was 6 actually. So that was 6. And then 7 is that they assume that you are ignorant about Japan and that you really don't know really anything about them. But mind you, that these stereotypes are what people's first impressions of you may be. If you get to know someone for an extended period of time, they're not still gonna think these things about you. When you meet someone, you really do change their mind about Black people, and you really do create this kind of you create a new image of what Black people are. I gave an example in the past video that you know, I'm a vegetarian, so going to, you know, school every day with my vegetarian lunch, the kids form this idea that other Black people must also be vegetarians. Not true, obviously. I'm sure you guys can testify. But because there's just such little data, you know, to compare and contrast, then, you know, all you really have is what you've been shown. So as far as, you know, Japanese people are concerned, once they finally get to meet you and know who you are, that is basically their new image of Black people. No pressure. Believe me, I've felt it as well. But that's basically the list. So if you guys liked this, please like it. And that is the end of the presentation. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'm going to be on here for another 15 minutes. So I'll be 15 minutes, yes. So all the way until I think 12:30. So feel free to ask anything. I'm just going to read these. Oh, do you guys like my glass? It is the season of giving, and I got myself this little tumbler. So flavored water. Ooh, it also says Santa's favorite. Wink. Okay, let's continue. Hi, Justin. Hi, Strawberry, Jasmine. Kawaii Love. Thank you for coming. The Lonus Max says, don't call yourself chocolate and complain about stereotypes. I don't understand how chocolate is a stereotype. You might need to go over that one for me. I might be missing it. All right, Black says, is this Black people in general or Black female? These apply to all Black people. And then, yeah, we'll just skip the negativity. Kawaii Love says, once again, Geisha looking super pretty today. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oreo Rain says, hi. Hi, Oreo Rain. Hi, Fox and a Fox. Yes, and Elise Art, thank you for coming. I'm glad you could make it as well. Yeah, you guys feel free to ask questions. I'll be on here for a little while. And I'll share a few more like tidbits about things I've noticed as far as people assuming things about me. Actually, one thing that comes to mind is recently, you guys know I work at a Japanese law firm, and I'm the only Black person in there. So naturally, I'm kind of a wild card. So my boss actually, we were having like this party at his house. He was like, we have a karaoke machine. I'd love to hear you sing. You seem like you can sing. She seems like she can sing, right? And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, no, don't do it to me. But I mean, jokes on them. I actually do love singing, and I was actually super excited. But I think that was also based in a stereotype that they just thought, I could just, have the voice of an angel, which I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but yeah, that's just not something you really assume about people. But it is what it is. Let's see. Oh, because Any Blue says, meanwhile, I can't walk up a flight of stairs without dying. Yeah, that athletic stereotype is, it's pretty prevalent. And I find that even a lot of people who are mixed with Black and Japanese, they feel kind of that pressure to conform to one of those things. So based on these stereotypes, some of them feel the need to become, athletes, or feel the need to join like track and field and, play piano and sing and do all of these things that they feel like they're already being pressured to kind of conform to. It's not fair. I know that it's not fair. But it is one of those things that comes with being such a small percentage of the foreign population in Japan. All right, let's continue reading. Kawaii Love says, we Beyoncés. We really are Beyoncés. They think we are. And I do wish I had Beyonce money. Man. Yes, they think that we are all good dancers. Kawaii Love says, is skinny as a stick. Yeah, they assume that we're all just, I don't know. They just think that we're all physically just like really out there. Like I said, guys, rippling muscles, really tall, just large brick house kind of phenotype, and that the women are just like curves, like just chest and bottom, just freaking, yeah, yeah, that's what they think. Strawberry Moon says, when you're Black and fat as a pancake. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. As far as Japanese like beauty standards are concerned, they actually they're not really fans of like a lot of curves, actually, which is something that also shocked me. I guess I can make another beauty standard video, but that's for another day. But I wouldn't beat yourself up for not having like a lot in the front or the back. It's really not a big deal. And I think it'll work in your favor, especially with those small Japanese sizes. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Kawaii Love says, I would have gotten social anxiety. It'd be like that sometimes. Sometimes you do get a little nervous about like meeting someone new. But like I said, once you finally like give that first introduction, like, hey, my name is Dedra. I'm from America. I like doing this. What's your name? Like that kind of already helps bring them back down to earth and like, okay, I'm not dealing with black people. I'm dealing with this person in front of me. So that really does help. It's difficult because like I mentioned, there's so few of us that like really all they really have is what they're thinking in their head. They don't have that experience of knowing several different black people to compare and contrast with. You know what I mean? So um, there's a lot of potential to change their minds and to kind of like bring them down to earth. All right, let's continue. Is onsen like an anime where everyone is talking and analyzing each other? Yes and no. I don't think people really. Well, actually, yes. I'd say yes. It is similar to anime in the sense that there are no clothes. I know in anime everyone's covered with a towel, but like no, we all out there the way God made us, if you know what I mean. So yeah, be in there, but people are really friendly. I found that people, especially if you're a foreigner in an onsen, people have so much. They're like, okay, this person is obviously down with the culture, so I'm gonna go talk to them. And that's what I've noticed every time I've gone to an onsen, especially because I used to go by myself as well, because I just onsen are, it's so lovely. I miss it so much, especially this time of year. But when you go to an onsen, especially by yourself, people are like drawn to you. They're like, wow, I've never seen a black person in here. You got a lot of guts. What's your name? Where are you from? Why are you here? What are you doing in Osaka or Tokyo or wherever you're from? Actually, there's a funny story. I was in Osaka this one time and I was, in the onsen by myself. And there was this lady that came up to me and she's like, hey, how are you doing? It's beautiful weather. And we just kind of struck up this conversation. And then she was like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from America, but I live in Gunma. And she's like, no way. She's like, I'm from Gunma. I'm like, no way. And then like we were just both talking and she was super cool. So like stuff like that happens all the time in onsen. You just meet people and they're like down to talk. It's also really cool to go with friends. The very first time I went to an onsen, I went with my foreign friends who were also traveling with me to Japan, and we all have like many different body types. So it like was super relaxing. I'm like, okay, like there's not a ton of pressure on like me. Everyone feels the way I do. Everyone's like, people are looking at me, but in reality, it's just relief. So highly recommend that. I'd love to do a video on onsen in the future. That's an idea. All right, I'm going to continue reading. Kawaii Love says, I'm shy until I get to know you. I find that most people are like that. It's very rare to find someone who's out the gate just like, hello, what's your name? People aren't like that most of the time. People are kind of to themselves and they're kind of like feeling you out. I think that's a human thing, which is what I hope that, they realize as well. But yeah, let's continue. Yeah, Black says we are smooth. Yes, they think we're smooth. They think we are smooth. And, it is what it is. Kawaii Love says, my Japanese moms, you like Japan, really? Oh my gosh, you know so much. Yeah, they assume that Black people really don't know much about Japan. It's really interesting because even when I keep referring to this like I guess housewarming. It wasn't housewarming, but like my boss had the new employees over for like this lunch dinner kind of thing, and they were so shocked about the fact that I knew about basic Japanese history and like basic like landmarks and things like that. Like I don't know if he thought that my knowledge of Japan started and ended with the Japanese language, but I feel like maybe they're like pleasantly surprised that like I knew the different things about, their cultural and, national identity. I'm like, yeah, I know and I care. Japan is my business and my pleasure. So, it's natural to know a lot of things. Like freaking trivia stuff. Yeah, let's see, continuing on. Oh, yes. I'm surprised the dirty factor wasn't mentioned. As far as being dirty, that's not really a Black stereotype. I think that's more of like a foreigner stereotype that we don't really respect the rules as far as, what is customary, as far as cleanliness is concerned. I don't The Japanese people I've met, I don't know, like maybe other people's experience is different, but I've never had someone tell me I was dirty before. It's never been suggested either. So I don't know. That might just be me. You might want to check out some other videos and compare and contrast. But as far as, my experience as Dedra, I've never been told that I was dirty or just unclean or that I don't know how to take care of myself. It's never been suggested to me. Kawhi Love says, I can only sing well in the shower. With that, that echo really helps. Hot Pepper says Japan is a declining society. Cool story. All right. Zen says no pressure, none at all. Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, they think that about foreigners. Yeah, that's right, Natalie. They do think the dirty factor about foreigners. Um, Yeah, definitely. Joel says they are willing to learn, which is cool. It is really cool. I'm really glad that they're open to that. I think honestly a lot of the misconceptions about black people is just because they really have not met any black people. It's like thinking about what a unicorn is like and never being able to see a unicorn ever. It's like they must be like this, they must be like this because they look like this, they must be like this, and it's like no, sir. Incorrect. But they are very open to learn, and they're very like receptive to people in general. Like I'm not sure if I've mentioned, but Japanese people, like, they really have received me well. So it's really. Oh, what are some negative stereotypes as black? Um, I I don't really see really negative stereotypes in the way that America does. America has like a history of slavery, and like the white supremacy is like as deep as the roots of the country. So like naturally there's going to be, demeaning of black people in that sense. Just, it comes with the territory of like, colonialization, etc. But as far as Japan, like the history with black people is really not that deep. And people, they're not really jumping out the gate assuming bad things about you. It's just what they think you're like. Um, as far as negative stereotypes, I guess they think we're loud, but it's not. That's kind of a foreign stereotype as well. They assume that all foreigners are loud and that we talk with our outside voices all the time. As far as negative stereotypes, negative stereotypes, negative. I don't know. Is not knowing anything about Japan negative? I guess it depends. Like Japan is in America. Like they don't think that we're bucktooth sitting on the porch eating fried chicken and watermelon. Like that's not a Japanese interpretation of what black stereotypes are. Like what I've mentioned is what they think. I don't even think Japanese people know that that black people are stereotyped to like fried chicken. Japanese people love fried chicken. I'm sure the mentality is, who wouldn't love fried chicken? Me, because I'm vegetarian, but there aren't really negative stereotypes like that. Japan is a different place, totally different place. Link says, have you been into any situations that might have been hostile due to ethnic difference? Not in the don't belong there Western way, but not being able to process social norms in comparison to your own. I'd have to say no. There's nothing really. I guess if you're asking about racism, I can't say that I've been in a situation like the one you're asking about. I'd say the worst situation I've been in as far as, misconceptions or something like that would be, there was a day I was walking to the train and there was this guy who was walking opposite of me, and he just put his head down. And he's like, it's a black one, it's a black one, it's a black one, it's a black one, it's a black one. And he like walked off. That was the worst situation I've ever been in. Was that based on a stereotype? I don't know. It's like, how do you even respond to that? I just more or less like watched him pass by. But what do you even do about that? I didn't feel like I was personally slighted. I mean, I was offended. I was like, excuse me, but like, what do you do there? Like, what do you really do? What would you do actually? And she's a brick House. Yes, exactly. They think that we're all brick houses, but it'd be like that. How do Black children live in Japanese society without racism? That is another video. Can't answer that now. I also have just 1 minute. Oh gosh. Um, okay. I'm gonna just try and answer these as well as I can. Oh gosh. Okay, maybe we should just extend it. Oh gosh. Okay. Extra 15 minutes. Extra 15. I don't want to skip over these. You guys have a lot of questions. And I keep rambling. How long have you been living in Japan? Asks Rose Love. I'm not living in Japan. I'm in the Bay Area in San Francisco, California. But I lived in Japan for 1 year. Hot Pepper, how do Black children live in Japanese society without racism? I will go over that in another video. It's coming. But that's a good suggestion. I do have that on my radar, so it's coming. You're planning on going back to Japan. I am not answering that. Nothing to slight you at all, but I will leave that to what God has in store. That is a question for God. Let's see. Kawai Love says, I have a weird question. How did you go to an onsen without wetting your hair? Honestly, you don't wet your hair. The problem is not wetting your hair, it's steaming your hair. Because usually I'll like put my hair up, like kind of just like in a bun or something so that it's like out of my face. And then I'll like sit and then, the water never really goes. You don't submerge yourself. So it'll be like right here. But the problem is like steaming your hair because sometimes the steam can be like, it'll like frizz up your edges and stuff like that. I know my edges aren't in the best state, but yeah, that's the biggest concern. And that's kind of, you can't really help it. I guess you could wear a shower cap if you want, but no one does. So you might look a little weird. Oh yeah, Kawhi Love says, I wish we had some type of onsen culture in America, but it'll probably never work. Yeah, Americans, we don't know how to act. So it would not work well. Ayana says, Ayana, Ayana says, how do you deal with the stares? I would love to go to Japan, but I'm scared of that. Honestly, it kind of just comes with the territory. If you're in a place like Tokyo or like a big city where there's like foreigners everywhere, no one really cares. And you won't get stared at. But if you're going to somewhere like in the country, in like one of these really outskirt prefectures, you'll probably get stared at everywhere. But it's not like a negative stare. Like it's not judgment. You know what I mean? Like they're staring because they're more like shocked that you're even there in the first place. They're just like, whoa. That's more of what it is. It's not like, oh my gosh, look at her shoes. It's not like that at all. It's more just, surprise than anything. And you do get used to it. Let's see. Julie Honey says, not exactly a Black stereotype, but I heard that in some areas, people who dress in a variation of J faction get shamed. Is that true? You don't have to answer. I guess it depends on what kind of fashion. Because there's actually a girl I follow. Her name is Frokio. She's this Black kind of like Lolita alternative fashion icon that lives in Tokyo. Check her out. She gets a lot of positive reception. When I look at her, like her stories on Instagram and things, she'll always say that like little kids call her cute and like strangers like talk about her and, in positive ways. And she overhears a lot of that. So that's, definitely, I think something that happens. So I don't think that they really respond negatively. Maybe if you're more like out there, you might just get stared at. But I think if you're talking about like regular popular J fashion, I don't think they think negatively about that. How's the weather been lately in Japan? I'm not in Japan, but from what I hear, like from my friends and things, it's getting cold, especially in the Tokyo area. Not really like stormy, but just like really the temperature is dropping a lot, is what I hear, word of mouth. Yeah, handle my tasks is hardly any stairs. I'm saying it's actually there won't be as many as you are probably thinking, especially if I'm assuming you'll go to a bigger city. Yes, it is impressive and pleasantly surprising. Kayla says, how do they view natural hair? I have a video on that coming up. But yes, I'll definitely be talking about that. Natural hair in Japan. Natural hair in Japan, it is coming. I have another hair related video coming as well, but I'm going to save that. That's for my Japanese audience. Educational. Oh, Evan says, did you learn how the people there they regard the samurai yasuke, the African samurai? Actually, that's a video I've been considering doing. To be honest, I don't know very much. I've watched a few videos here on YouTube about him, but I'd love to like do something investigating him. Definitely. Let's read. Amy Ton Central says, during study abroad, my Japanese roommate picked up my soap out of the bathroom, brought it to me, and asked if I actually used it. Was that? I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, there's lots of things you can assume from that. Um, yeah, you can assume a lot of things about that. I don't know. It's a piece of information, but I don't know. I feel like you need more data from that. You can't just assume that it's negative. Like, I know that especially being in America, I have a video coming about this, but like not everyone in the world thinks certain things about Black people. Like that's a video coming, but we'll get there. I don't think that it was supposed to slight you unless, I don't know. Anyway, what's your ethnicity? Well, both of my parents are from Cameroon, which is a Central African country. So I am a purebred Cameroonian girl. I have yeah, I'm basically all African. So I'm Black, fully Black, mixed Black and Black, Black and gold. Okay. All right, let's continue. Sakura says, I'm dreaming to go to Japan, but I'm 38 years old, one M80, single, and on the thick body shape. I love traveling there for the holidays, but for working daily life, I'm afraid as hell. You shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid. And I'll say, particularly, especially if you are, an African American, your age honestly does not matter. I told this story already before on my channel, but there was this time that my mom and dad came to visit me in Japan, and they were riding, in the back seat, and I was in the front seat, and I was just chatting with the taxi driver in Japanese. And he's like, "How long are your siblings gonna be in Japan?" And I'm like, "Sir, like this is my mother and this is my father." So it's not even they're really age. Age really doesn't even matter to be honest, especially if you're African American or just like Black of African descent. And secondly, like, don't let your body shape stop you. Actually, I think I should make a video on this because Japan isn't so much in that mentality that they were in as far as, body standards. I really do need to make like a video on this because things are changing. Let me see if I'm making a note. If you guys have any other video suggestions, things you want to see, please let me know. Mainly based on race and identity. Let me see. I will make a video on that. Thick in Japan. Okay, thank you. But yes, I would not let that stop you. I would not let it stop you. Yes, continuing on. Sorry, I messed up my spot. I want to be able to read all of these. Okay. Have you heard about a university in Japan having a major in anime? Oh, yes, I'm totally certain. Actually, there's tons. There's tons of them. So if you're interested in being a mangaka, like an animator or like a manga artist, then there's plenty of opportunities there. A negative stereotype is that we're easy to get with. I guess you could say that. My grandma does this thing where she hides candy canes on the tree, and I've been looking for one for 3 days and I can't find one. Best of luck in your search. Yeah, Natalie says, WTF, it's a Black one. Wow. Yeah, that was like the worst experience I've ever had. And I know some people have dealt with worse, but like for me, I feel like symbolically that was the worst because that just says so much about what he thought I'd be like. And chances are I was nothing like what he thought I'd be, or maybe I was. But who cares? Like, who even cares? He's a stranger on the, in the Japan I'll never see again in my life. So it's just like, it is what it is. Would have had to fight him. It's not even worth it. I don't want to prove any stereotypes right. Maybe he thinks we're aggressive. Who knows? See if I can answer any more questions. My brother said he would scream boo. I've considered it. I almost want to be like, or something like that. But I'm like, no, no, no. It's okay. You don't want to frighten them. They scare easily. Yeah. I think I answered all of these questions. Let's see. VB says, "Hey, love you. Thank you. When you say talk about Japanese strangers approaching you, do they usually do it in English or Japanese?" I'd say it's about half and half. Whenever you see a Japanese person, especially if you're like in one of these bigger cities and you just look lost, I was lost this one time. This lady literally came up to me and she's like, "Do you need help?" And like she literally just helped me, and then we had a little conversation as she, guided me to, where I was trying to go. But there's also like random people who ask, like, do you speak Japanese? That's usually like the first thing, like, do you speak Japanese? And then if I say yes, then they proceed to like comment whatever they wanted to comment. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty half and half. But if you are the one approaching them, they expect you to come in Japanese, or like they're more like hoping that you come in Japanese. I could say that. Kayla says, would you ever consider vlogging? Yes, actually, I did vlog for a while back when I was living in Japan. I had my Let's Go vlogs where I just go places. I plan on starting that again. Oh, thank you, Tamika or Tamika. Let's see. A. Lenig says, I applied to the JET program 2 years ago and got denied. I hear it's very competitive, so I'm trying another way to live there. There are many, many ways. There are many ways. And JET is interesting. I always, am an advocate for JET because, I went on JET, so I am biased. But there are many other ways to go to Japan. I actually, back in college, 2 friends of mine, and I were all applying for JET, and one of my friends got in and the other one didn't, but we all applied together. We all basically had the same credentials, but he still didn't get in, which didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't make a lot of sense. So I say that to say that, some of these things are just kind of a mystery, but there are many different organizations similar to JET that can get you there. And that is a video coming. So have faith, have faith. And then we're going to end this soon. So Super Kokujin 1916 says, stereotypes are everywhere you go. Don't let that stop you from going. Your presence can change every negative perception. That's powerful stuff. Amen. Amen to that. Amen to that. I agree. Stereotypes are just illusions. They really are. And it's not who you are. And there's so many people who are more interested in what you actually are as opposed to what they think you are. So, yes. Kayla says, would you do a video on skincare in Japan? Yes, I plan to as well. Or like Japanese skincare. It's a video I want to make in the future. Kelly says, I want to be a tourist, but I don't know what to do to become one. Like a tourist? Like, do you mean a tour guide? All you have to do to be a tourist is just go. But as far as being a tour guide, that takes a little more. Kawaii Love says, still trying to go to Japan next year after high school. Ganbatte, do your best. I'm sure you'll get there. So Kawaii Love says, I hope I'm able to study abroad in college when I can. I'm sure you can. There's many different kinds of Japanese like colleges, universities in Japan. One of them is Sophia University. Another one is Temple University. And there are lots of other smaller universities that you can apply to. So I'm sure you'll get your chance. Let's see. I want to go in order. Oh, Handle My Task Inc. says, would love a video from you on the top 10 things you'd love to buy or shop from in Japan. Yes, of course, of course. Let me add it to the list. Top 10 buys in Japan. I also want to do like a shopping haul or something like that. Okay, you guys, we have 1 minute on the clock. 1 minute, 1 minute. I'll answer the last question. Evan G. Lyon says, you might have answered this before, but in your time in Japan, do they have anti-blackness or colorism? Sorry if that sounds weird. Actually, no. I haven't noticed a lot of colorism as far as preference of one Black person to another. As far as like a light-skinned Black person and a dark-skinned Black person, they might ask if that light-skinned Black person is like half something else, but there's not really, I don't see preferential treatment among different kinds of Black person. I think as long as like you're a well-presented, hygienic, just relatively friendly person, I think they respond positively to you, and they don't really care for one kind of Black person over another. Just as long as you're, a decent human being, they don't really care about, shades the way that, Black people tend to like obsess over them. But yeah, you guys have to go. And don't apologize, I can't, something Fuku. I'm struggling to read your name, but don't worry about it. It's totally fine. Kelly says, would you ever think about going to Korea, learning the language? I'd love to travel there. It's on my bucket list. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, please like it. Get those likes up. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe so you can become part of the YouTube fam. I will see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.